side again?
Nope. That didn't work the last time.
No.
The beauty of technology. At least we're recording, so we'll be able to post it later on. Good evening, everybody. I will call the regular meeting of the Fundy Albert Council for October 3rd, 2023 to order. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. The agenda for this evening's meeting was circulated in advance. I'd asked if there are any errors, omissions, or additions. I do have a couple. Under item number 4, there are also the minutes of the committee of the whole on September 19th, 2023 to adopt. Under item number 11, there is the addition of item D, which is the approval of the winter maintenance contract for the community of Hillsborough, and item E, an extension of the solid waste collection contract in the community of Hillsborough. And the addition of public comments and statements as item number 12. This would make the closed session item number 13 and the adjournment item number 14. Do all councilors consent to the additions as presented? There being no objections, I will accept a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. So moved by Councillor Elderkin, seconded by Councillor Land. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is item number 3, conflicts of interest declarations. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare in relation to this evening's agenda? There being none, we'll move to item number 4, which is the adoption of the minutes. We have the following minutes to approve this evening. Those of the regular council meeting of August 1st, 2023, which were not prepared for our last regular meeting in September. The regular council meeting of September 5th, 2023, the committee of the whole meeting on September 19th, 2023, the special meeting of September 20th, 2023, and the special meeting of September 27th, 2023. So the draft minutes of the regular meeting on August 1st were circulated in advance of this meeting. Are there any errors or omissions to report? Not, I'll accept the motion to adopt the minutes as circulated. So moved by Councillor Coates, seconded by Councillor Jonah. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion is adopted unanimously. The next minutes are the draft minutes of the regular meeting on September 5th, 2023 that were circulated in advance. Are there any errors or omissions to report? There being none, I'll accept the motion to adopt those minutes. So moved by Councillor Arrow, seconded by Councillor Land. Any questions on the motion? Not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried unanimously. The next set of minutes are the draft minutes of the committee of the whole on September 19th, 2023. They were circulated in advance of this meeting. Are there any errors or omissions to report in those minutes? There being none, I'll accept the motion to adopt the minutes as circulated. So moved by Councillor Ward Russell, seconded by Councillor Jonah. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried unanimously. The next set of minutes are the draft minutes of the special meeting on September 20th, 2023. They were circulated in advance of the meeting. Are there any errors or omissions to report? If not, I'll accept a motion to adopt those minutes as circulated. So moved by Councillor Elderkin, seconded by Councillor Land. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? The motion's carried unanimously. The last set of minutes are the draft minutes of the special meeting of September 27th, 2023. They were circulated in advance of the meeting. Are there any errors or omissions to report? There being none, I'll accept the motion to adopt the minutes as circulated, so moved by Councillor Coates, seconded by Councillor Lord Russell. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any, motion's carried unanimously. Item number 5 on the agenda is the consent agenda. There are no consent agenda items for this evening's meeting. So we will move on now to public and administrative presentations. I'm just going to go to the back of the room and see if there are any others. We do have a 5-minute presentation. We're going to move the little podium, sort of podium that we have. We 2 minutes on the registered. Yes, there are. We have Jane Chrysostom on municipal financial matters and Mr. Chris Kelly, village business. So we'll start with Mr. Michael McCurry, on public works, resources, and Mr. McCurry.
Good evening, Michael McCurry, 4073 St. Drive in Elma. We received our plans today from our architect for our project, as well as financing. It should be a happy day, but it's not. I'd first like to congratulate you, the mayor, and some of the council for helping us reach a decision to not proceed with our development. Simply because of the process of excavating the ditches took far too long, and we've just had wasted too much valuable time. Due to the actions, behaviors, and demonstration of leadership in the last 9 months by some of you sitting here this evening, we've lost trust and faith in our elected officials that this amalgamation will be successful, particularly for the Alma region, but that's not the case. With the recent disregard for the bylaw 2022-22 public conduct by some members of council, which you were all sworn to abide by, has really given us reason for great concern. At this time, we are not comfortable in investing our money in an area which our elected officials have shown so little or no interest in, and it's very disheartening. Councillor and Deputy Mayor Land, what is your role with Public Works Department? You stated in an email that you came to my property to assess the ditches. I'd like to know what your role is within the Public Works Department. Secondly, do you receive a salary from the Department of Works in addition to your salary for Deputy Mayor? And thirdly, in an email that I had addressed to the mayor, are you employed by the company that performed the work at 4073 Scenic Drive? Is there a checklist of work to be done in the village of Alma by Public Works? And if so, where can the public obtain that checklist? If we are all one, why are public resources not being evenly divided throughout the entire Fundy? I brought this to your attention before. Hillsborough looks incredible. Our sidewalks aren't swept from the spring. The weeds are grown up around the bridges. Jane's property just got mowed for the first time for the entire season. That to me is not acceptable. We have a Public Works Department that's supposed to be in charge of the whole entity. So where's the Public Works for us? The alders are overgrowing on Foster Road. You have to reach out around the other side of the road to see. Leaving Scenic Drive and the 915, you physically have to get into the intersection to see past the knotweed. That's Public Works Department. Thirdly, will the public be made aware of the decisions surrounding the disregard of the code of conduct by some council members and our mayor in using public works equipment and employees to move the Literacy Express? I understand there's a closed meeting tonight for that. Why is everything so secretive? You guys admitted that, and Councillor Land, you yourself said that you would do it all over again if you had a choice. That's total disregard for the tax-paying dollars that we're spending to pay your salary. And you're going to disregard your code of conduct that you so proudly swore to. I find that very disheartening, and I find it very deceitful. Lastly, I am publicly requesting that I get a credit for the portion of my water that I haven't been able to use for the first and second quarter. And will the village of Fundy make any provisions to compensate any of the business owners or any of the homeowners for not being able to use water? I'm not even hooked up at 4073. I haven't used 1 ounce. I haven't used sewer, but I'm still paying $1,000 for the year. That doesn't make sense.
Thank you, Mr. McBurney. Thank you for your presentation. I will suggest that if you have any specific questions that you would like answered, that be sent to council in writing.
I most certainly will.
And they will be replied to as I have in the past. So thank you very much. Are there any questions of Mr. McBurney? Councillor Coates? No. Councillor Elderton? Councillor Arrow? Councillor Land? Councillor Lord Russell? Councillor John? All right, thank you very much, sir. We do have a 2-minute presentation by Mrs. Jane Chrysostom. Mrs. Chrysostom.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, friends, relatives, residents, and people of Alma. I'm Jane Chrysostom, Ward 1, Alma. We have attended nearly every council meeting of the former Village of Alma for years and have frequented the monthly Village of Albert Council meetings and Committee of the Whole meetings since amalgamation. I hope that council can shed some light this evening on the status of some financial matters. Many of us are aware that there was a $25,000 budget line item for Alma recreation and a $20,000 budget line item for beautification and yet another for bylaw enforcement. It's my understanding that these were specific line items for Alma in the 2023 budget, including $4,000 for knotweed eradication. We are here in October, so we'd like to know what expenditures have been put toward these line items for Alma 2023. It has been brought to council's attention that residents and business owners have been experiencing frustrations and public safety issues because of the lack of public bylaw enforcement regarding parking violations and unsightly premises throughout the village. I have inquired a few times in letters to council and in visiting with Alma's Ward 1 councilor about the efforts of the Department of Public Works in routinely maintaining municipally owned green spaces, particularly along Main Street and at the Village Square with no reply from council. It has been a disappointment this summer season that the expected and traditional beautification amenities were not implemented in Alma, most notably along Main Street and at the Village Square, which are all focal points for visitors, tourists, and residents. So with respect to council, and not to put council on the spot to provide information that might not be at your fingertips this evening, I ask council to address these questions about the financial line items and what residents and business owners in Alma can expect from municipally owned green spaces, maintenance, and beautification in the future. And to address what those line item numbers, what's happened with those. So I will submit this so that those can be referenced for answering in the time of that.
Please do, and I will respond. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Chrysostom. Next, I have Mr. Chris Kelly on the village business. Mr. Kelly.
Seems a bit short for me.
Sorry, I think it might go up.
No, we're good. I feel like I'm at a hospital getting my meal. First, I'd like to say that I do not speak for the residents of Alma, but I will say that there are many people within the village that do share my concerns. The overall feeling is that there is a fundamental disconnect between the former villages and are now amalgamated village. There is a Hillsborough first mentality, it is felt, with the former villages of Riverside and especially Alma as afterthoughts. There are many examples of why that feeling permeates through the community. The lack of snow plowing this winter, especially during the February frolic. The lack of public works employees sent to Alma for the upkeep of municipal properties. The hanging baskets that never showed up within Alma, yet they showed up in Riverside, Albert, and Hillsborough. The lack of employee representation in our municipal office. There's also the select public works employees that have been saying poor things about amalgamation and Alma to residents here when they're down water testing or doing performing work down here. Outside of the fishing industry, 95% of our economy down here is tourism. The province of New Brunswick recognizes that and promotes our area. And yet, Alma's had to form a community group dedicated to caring for the municipal spaces because public works does not tend to our gardens. Tourism in this area is down 20–25%. That's anecdotal. I can't give you an exact number on that yet. And yet there's been no business promotion of the businesses throughout Fundy, Albert from the village, either via website or via the social media sites. The position of Director of Community Service was allowed to sit vacant for 6 months, completely during the tourist season. And there doesn't seem to be a real concern for the tourism industry from the council. We've been without water, without potable water since June. We're very happy to have not run out of water, but we've had no actual potable water. The businesses in this town have it's cost me, I only have 2 suites, hundreds of dollars. The hotels and restaurants in this town are paying thousands of dollars. And we accept that. That's Almighty, we kind of push through. But there seems to be very little concern from this council when it comes to that issue. I know you can't push it through, but there's been zero empathy displayed, in my opinion. Maybe nothing different could have been done, but a little bit of empathy goes a long way. We see the use of public works and public works contracts obviously favoring Hillsborough and Hillsborough-based companies. To top that off, we see the tone-deaf social media posts from council members advising against coming to the town of Alma. Council has spent a ridiculous amount of time, energy, and village money trying to get rid of our CAO. Rightly or wrongly, it is felt that that's because she was pro-Alma. Meanwhile, there are stories of village employees that have accosted residents of the village without recourse. Mr. Premier, when you spoke prior to the election, you promised that you would work in a transparent manner for all the people of Fundy, Albert. The code of conduct says that all councils will work in a transparent manner for all the people of Fundy, Albert. And to this point, we just have not seen that. For Fundy, Albert to flourish, we have to be better. We have to fix the problems that have arisen to this point, and we have to shed the non-transparency and neglect of some areas moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. I apologize. I should have asked if any councillors had any questions of Mrs. Christostone's comments, or Councillor, and we can do both at the same time. Councillor Coates, any questions of either Mr. Kelly or Mr. Christostone?
Mr. Kelly, how many years has Alma had boil on it?
I would say probably 10 years.
10 plus. This is going into our 11th year.
And the council that's been in place for, I guess this would be the 10th month, are supposed to fix it like that?
I actually didn't say in my talk that he's going to fix it, Mr. Coates. I said that I don't think anything differently could have been done. I think, though, that a little concern for the area might be applicable.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor. Were you done?
Yes,
Okay, Councillor Alderson?
Appreciate both your comments and presentations. We are, I'm going to speak for myself, not for everybody, but the amalgamation has been a struggle. I do believe we can move forward for all the Fundy efforts. I have hopes of that, and I do hope that we can all continue to work together, and I'm happy that you guys can share what your concerns are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Arrow?
No, thank you both for speaking out. For Jane, on some of the line items, I'm going to address some of these during statements of inquiries. I have some ideas about for the remainder of the year on how to make effective use of some money down in the area. And thank you, President,
Thanks for your council.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Land? Thank you. Councillor Ward Russell?
I don't thank you both for your presentations and your openness. I can only hope that we can do that moving forward.
Thanks, council.
Councillor John? Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it. And from my perspective, some of the concerns that have been expressed, Mr. Keller, you and I have had many conversations.
Yeah, in talking to someone else, it was brought to my attention that maybe not everybody knew the concerns, hence the reason for the open forum. I know you know my concerns. I know Councillor Arrow knows my concerns, so just wanted to share it with all.
Okay, well, that's fine. And I will have some comments. I will have some comments to provide on some elements of what we talked about.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the presentation, if you still have some other questions, which I suspect you may, by all means, write to me. I will respond. I always respond to any correspondence that's sent to me. So great. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Under reports and recommendations from committees and private meetings, there's nothing. Under reports from administration, I do have a report from our interim administrator. She reports that the winter maintenance tender for the community of Hillsborough has closed. Again, we're talking about Hillsborough, but Hillsborough was the only one where the tender was expired in December. So there is a resolution prepared for council's consideration this evening. Our interim administrator has also been able to confirm an agreement with Faro Waste for continued solid waste collection in the community of Hillsborough until the end of January 2025. Again, that was expiring December 31st. A draft resolution will be presented later during the meeting. In the information technology backup of computers right now, the Fundy Albert computers that we have, and there are a number of them. There are only 2 that are being backed up, and we've gotten a quote for backing up all of our assets, and that's an important part. Anybody that deals with information technology knows that if you happen to lose that material and it's not backed up, you're in trouble. So that is happening. There is work ongoing for a tender for an auditor for Fundy Albert. As of yet, there is no identified auditor for the books for Fundy Albert for 2023, which will happen shortly after the year. So that is happening. We have sought information about eScribe, or she has sought information about eScribe. I'll talk a bit about eScribe more in detail so everyone has an understanding of what I'm talking about. We are also looking at hiring a part-time attendant for the arena. She is working on that for the arena in Hillsborough, which is a shared asset for all people of Fundy Albert. She has also been corresponding with the Regional Development Corporation, which are responsible for some of the grants that we've applied for, and Globe Engineering and EXP Engineering, which are the engineering partners on a number of the projects that I'll speak about later on. And the budget process has begun. So there are some conversations going on with fire chiefs, with the Public Works Department, and my preference would be to share that budget information with all residents so everyone knows what is happening with the budgets in Fundy Albert. And there is a water audit on October 17th. It was previously scheduled for October 5th. but unfortunately, the Department of Health isn't able to be there. We have 3 separate water systems. This is a water audit for the water system for the community of Fairfield. And that's organized through the Department of Health and the Department of Environment. So I will now move on to a topic called circular materials. A topic that people probably aren't that familiar with. I participated in a session organized by the Southeast Regional Service Commission in relation to the upcoming, it's called ERP-PPP, which is the Extended Producer Responsibility Printed Paper and Packaging Initiative, due to be implemented in 2024. This is a new provincially mandated responsibility where municipalities will be required to handle the collection of certain materials for recycling, or have circular materials, the approved service provider, do so for them. This is different than the blue bags that are currently collected and that go to the landfill and are sorted for recyclable materials. The difference is that through circular materials, they will only accept certain recyclable materials, not all. So the fear is that some of those materials that are currently collected, such as metals, milk cartons, those things will end up going to the landfill, which we would like to avoid at all costs. So the Southeast Regional Service Commission is looking to its member communities to see if they would like them to manage the program. In other words, the Southeast Regional Service Commission would be a one-stop shop for all solid waste collection. They pretty much are right now, and it's just for them to be able to take all the sorted materials that would go to circular materials, they would package it and then would provide it to them. So based on the information provided, if communities opt out, there could be opting out means that circular materials would just send us and notify us who the contractor is that would collect those materials, and in all likelihood would result in 2 separate collection days. And I find that could be a little confusing for residents, as opposed to 1 collection day per week. The materials, as I said, the materials wouldn't cover certain recyclable materials. The concern is that some of these materials could end up in our landfill, creating more waste, more cost. More information will follow, but at the present time, it appears to me that opting in through the Southeast Regional Service Commission, we have an option of doing it ourselves, but then we're responsible to manage it. And with capacity issues, that could be a problem. And if we have the Southeast Regional Service Commission continue collecting solid waste as they do now and providing recycling New Brunswick the materials they accept, would be the best and least confusing and disruptive option for residents of Fundy Alberta. But there's more information. This is only a preliminary. We have to let circular materials know whether we will be opting in or opting out of the program by, I believe it's mid-December, December 18th. So more information to follow. eScribe. So during local governance transition, the Village of Fundy Alberta signed an agreement with eScribe, which is a software package aimed at simplifying certain administrative functions, such as doing up minutes for meetings and so on. I don't know enough to talk about it intelligently, so I won't try. But it was a package. So eScribe is, according to their website, is an end-to-end meeting management platform designed for the public sector, packaged with powerful tools that simplify meetings and reduce administrative workloads while opening new channels for citizen engagement and transparency, which sounds like it would be positive. Our interim administrator has reached out to a number of municipalities, and other than the town of Riverview, its implementation in other municipalities is at various stages. In most of the municipalities that have signed up with eScribe, they're in kind of the training aspect of it right now, but it has not been rolled out to incorporate council meetings. The idea being is that it would be almost like if you had a prescribed motion, it would be, okay, the motion was read by Councillor Jonas, so there would be a pick down list and it would automatically populate your information, making things much simpler for the clerk. So Fundy Alberta, as I mentioned, had signed a contract, and the contract was for 3 years. The costs incurred in 2023 were $9,631.25 plus HST, and included the training aspect of the program. To date, none of that has taken place. It can still take place, and that is the plan. Cost in 2024, because it's a 3-year program, and 2025 will be $8,127.05 and $8,614.67 plus HST respectively over 2024 and 2025. We have inquired about the possibility of postponing or canceling the agreement, and the cost to do that would be over $3,000. So it's a signed contract. If we cancel it, we pay a penalty. So right now, I believe we should not cancel the agreement at this time. Once a new CAO is in place, arrangements for training can be made. That's the hope, and the sooner the better. Item number D, under provincial municipal highway program submission. So in past years, we used to have this thing that we used to call the 5-year DTI plan, which each individual former municipality as a municipality would provide priorities to the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure on what they would like to see done in their municipality that would fall under the provincial responsibility. Now that has changed. Now we get one submission for all of Fundy Albert, and it's now, instead of a 5-year plan, it's a 4-year plan. And we had until September 30th to provide our plan to DTI. We weren't going to be able to meet that, so I requested an extension to October 13th, and that was granted. So we have until the end of next Friday to get our plan in place. It requires a resolution of council to adopt the plan, and the submission signed by the CAO or signing officer of the municipality. It only applies to the formerly incorporated municipalities. It doesn't apply to any highways such as the 915 that runs through Harvey, Waterside, and places like that. That's still under the management of the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. The eligible projects include highway resurfacing, chip sealing, highway reconstruction, drainage, culverts, and storm sewers. I met with our Director of Operations today. I sought some input from both he and the interim CAO. They are going to have a conversation with the public works staff. They're going to bring their list to council. Council will then have input into what should be done in the 3 formerly incorporated municipalities. And then hopefully we'll have all that come together so that we adopt a resolution to council and then approve and then send the plan into DTI. But it has to include costings and so on. So, and there are ways of getting that information. It's just like the time is short. We need to get that stuff done. So, where was I?
We'll have a decision of council before the 13th.
So we will be talking this evening about scheduling a special meeting next Thursday at the latest, maybe even Wednesday, so that we can adopt the plan per se, once everyone has had the opportunity to input into it. So it's a pretty tight time frame, but it's doable. The challenge is if we don't submit it by the 13th, we're not included in the 4-year plan. And so that's not in the cards. Item number E, which is the Caledonia Regional High School Yearbook request. We've received a request for sponsorship of the Caledonia Regional High School Yearbook. At least one former municipality has supported the request in the past. Sponsorship opportunities include a page sponsor for $60, a gold sponsor for $75, which would provide recognition on a thank you page in the yearbook, and or a platinum sponsor, which is $100 and a recognition again on the thank you page. Is there an appetite on the part of council to sponsor the Caledonia Regional High School yearbook?
I would like, sorry, go ahead. I would like to make a motion to support the Caledonia Regional yearbook fundraising as a platinum sponsor in the amount of $100.
So moved by Councillor Elderton. Is there a seconder on that motion? Councillor Land. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor of the motion signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, if any? The motion is carried unanimously. Item number F, the Caledonia Regional High School Lunch Program request. So we're going to receive a request from a UNB nursing program participant. Citing, they had done some work at the Caledonia Regional High School, and they're citing food insecurity as an issue for some students of Caledonia Regional High School. They're looking at starting up a lunch program at Caledonia Regional High School for students in need and are looking for financial support. I don't know if that's something council would like to entertain or maybe defer, or there are a number, I'm aware that they are reaching out to a number of other groups, and I'm involved in another such group, and they've reached out to quite a number of groups.
That's what we should defer, have a conversation after that. Because there is a school now, so it's probably in the lunch program. So maybe we'd have a discussion.
Will you speak up, please, so we can hear you?
I think we should defer for now, to have a discussion on both schools. There's one in Albert also, and I think they have a food program also. If we're going to do one, we should defer.
So there is a deferral, there will not be any position taken on that. Item G, which is White Birch street lighting. At the committee of the whole, a request was brought before council to install street lighting on certain streets in the White Birch Estates subdivision. I believe Councillor Ward Russell has done a little bit of work on that and may want to speak to that particular item.
Yeah, and I guess I would just clarify, it's not just the White Birch community, it would be Fort Six or Purville in general. So I should probably make that statement. So yeah, thank you. The village team, I guess, prepared a survey that was put on the village's Facebook, and I shared this on the community Facebook group as well. We've received over 105 responses, with 75% of those responses in favor of street lights at the intersections only, which would include Duffy, Niagara, Smithfield, and Petersfield. As the 2023 budget does not include a budget for streetlights, I'd like to suggest for the 2024 budget, we include a $1,500 line item. The current quote for these 4 lights would be $8 a month per light, which at this point would be $384
Per year.
per year.
So are you suggesting that we should ask our administration to include that for budget next year?
I would ask for $1,500. Just, I'm sure there'll be additional requests. Yeah, for the 2024 budget.
Okay. Any other comments or concerns?
This seems like a really low number. But
It's consistent with the information that I received. It's, as long as there's a poll in place, then it's I believe it's $8.
so the yearly cost, for instance, in Riverside, Albert, are 17,000 plus. It's 22, almost 23,000 just for streetlights. But maybe it's just, there's so much more. I don't know. Seems odd.
Yeah, it's because the former incorporated municipalities had a lot of streetlights in the
Yeah, I
municipality.
guess that's the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically the difference. And in the former LSDs, there hasn't been street lighting other than maybe the odd place. So, but if there are any new ones, the municipality. Okay.
And I guess I would like to clarify, these are not going to be put in a subdivision, these would just be on Route 114
Yeah.
and the Niagara Road.
Yeah, for safety purposes.
And nothing, you have no request for this year?
With only 2 months left in 2023, I would just defer the ask for 2024.
All right. Thank you.
Or just turn it on, get them going.
Right. That's
Some
done.
change. You.
Yeah, if we can come up with, $50 for the next 2 months, you know what I mean? So, it's changed. So yeah, if it's possible, maybe we could, have, the village administration.
It would require a motion of council. They do require a motion of council and be powerless.
Correct.
So,
Right, so I would like to make a motion that, the village of Fundy Albert proceeds with, the 4 streetlights, on Duffy, Niagara, Smithfield, and Petersfield. In the amount of $8 a month for the 4 lights for the remainder of 2023.
so moved by Councilor Ward Russell. Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councilor Harrell. Any discussion on the motion? Not all in favor, signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any, motion's carried unanimously.
I like that the work is done by Andy Power, they do it, yeah.
No work on our behalf. So item H, which is the water project systems update. So I do have a number of updates with respect to the different water systems and projects. And so the first one is that the Riverside Albert water main project is yet to be completed. I do know that they're working on it. They were working on it when I went by on my way here tonight. The leaks in the water line that had been there have apparently been located and repaired. There was to be chip sealing on Forestdale Road by the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, and this is no longer possible because of the delays installing the water line. During a meeting involving the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure and EXP Engineering, the possibility of using penalty monies was discussed, because for every day that they're beyond their target completion date, there are penalties to be incurred. That the possibility of using those penalty monies was discussed as a means of funding the chip sealing of Forestdale Road by the municipality in 2024. We received confirmation from the Regional Development Corporation that that would be possible. There are some questions as to how much funding would be available. So there is a meeting, I believe, has been requested with EXP Engineering, as they're claiming extra work by them and need to be paid through the contractor's late. So there's a conversation that's yet to be had by our local government. The community of Alma continues to be supplied water from two separate water sources. The portion of the former village of Alma that is supplied its water by Fundy National Park will remain on that supply until after the Rising Tides Trails and Tunes weekend. Arrangements will be made to remove the temporary water supply on October 16th. That's the information I have. The portion of the village of Alma that is supplied water from the municipal supply has remained on a boil water advisory because of prolonged turbidity level caused by frequent rain events this summer. That appears to have changed a little bit because we're experiencing a little drier weather. The Department of Health requires turbidity levels to become stable. So what they're looking for is a trend where turbidity levels stay under a level of 1, whatever that means. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know what that means. Our Director of Operations states that turbidity, and I spoke with him today, states that the turbidity levels are improving to the point where steps can probably be taken to remove the boil water advisory on the side of the community supplied by the municipal well. He will be speaking with the Department of Health to determine what happens when the Fundy National Park temporary water supply is decommissioned to reinstate the municipal side, or the municipal supply on that side. So in other words, on the 16th, they will open the valve at the bottom of School Street, close the valve on, I believe it's Fundy View Drive. And when they close that, all the folks that have been supplied their water from Fundy National Park for the summer will then start getting their water from the municipal supply. It's hoped that then after the long weekend or after the Rising Tides Festival weekend, that the demand on the water supply will be such that it will be able to sustain everyone over the winter without running the risk of running out of water. That's my understanding. So I have asked our Director of Operations to take steps to look at lifting the boil water advisory, and in doing so, he's going to reach out to the Department of Health to determine that once they do that switch on the 16th, does that mean that everyone will go back on the boil water, or will it mean that it's only the people that are on the Fundy National Park side that will be impacted by perhaps a few extra days until the water system stabilizes? I'm told by the Department of Health inspector that when you start mixing supplies of water, there's some chemistry that happens there. Again, I don't know that, but I'm told that because of that, they have to monitor that the water quality results for a period of time. But the hope is that we'll be able to remove half the municipality off the boil water, and then shortly thereafter, the remainder of the residents. That's the information I have. But I will say that the establishment of an alternate water source to the community of Alma was necessary to avoid a situation where the community would run out of water. We came dangerously close to that in July. Those costs are still being tabulated, and it's hoped that there will be some financial relief in the form of assistance through the Regional Development Corporation. I had asked our engineer partner, Englobe Engineering, what the costs might be, if, you know, because we need to have a sense of what those costs would be for the temporary water supply. And the information he provided me back then was that it was going to be somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 for that temporary supply. And unless we get some financial assistance from somewhere, those are costs that have to be borne by the users in the municipality. So we're doing everything possible to lobby our partners to see if we can get that covered somehow. We need some assistance. And the alternate choice would have been just to allow this, would have allowed us to run out of water, and that would have meant business closures and the like. And that just wasn't sustainable. Our community will likely face the same challenge in 2024, but we'll look at measures to mitigate the season-long boil water advisory. By then, our hope is that phase 2 of the water exploration project should be well underway. We have not yet received the results of the drilling and the 72-hour pump test. I almost look for that every day because we don't have it. Once we have it, we'll know whether the water quality is good. That's obstacle number 1. And we have a sense of what the supply amount is. But that in itself, even if we had a supply that the estimates are 100 gallons per minute, there's no guarantee that that will be the solution to our problem, because our problem is mostly because of reservoir capacity. So once that's in place, we'll have a better sense of where we're going. But we do have an end in sight to some extent of the current situation, whether that be in 2024, 2025, definitely in 2026. So that's all I have. Councilor Arrow, I don't know if you have something else that you would add.
The only thing I would add is for those in the community who are being serviced from the Fundy Park supply. So that's anything sort of west of School Street. There have been, if you haven't noticed, there were periods when that water was cloudy and brown color. This was all known to the officials, call it, and the Department of Health, and to Fundy Park. And it's as a result of the heavy rains and the fact that their water system is a surface water system. The water was being treated, it was always safe. The boil order was in place, but so if you do hear noises about that their water was, and maybe still is, but I think it's cleaned up a bit, was dirty. Yeah, it was, and people knew that.
So there's a couple of little additional tidbits of information. Is that apparently their system is a level 3 treatment plant, and when as they run their plant, they put a product in the water that's called coagulant, and it works to reduce the amount of turbidity, but also takes the color out of the water. It seems like the heavy rain events were overwhelming their ability to stay on top of that. So there was some discoloration in the water. The other thing that we had looked for in order for a boil water advisory to be removed on the Fundy National Park side is the Department of Health needs some reassurance that if there's an alarm that goes off somewhere in their system, that we would get notified right away, which would then trigger the boil water. And Fundy National Park, even though they've done gangbusters of a job trying to help us out this summer, their system is managed through a third party right now, and they just didn't have those agreements in place with the third party so that could be done safely. So they are going to be looking over the winter at establishing those safeguards, so that next summer we might have something a lot better to deal with in terms of the temporary water supply. But all indications are right now that we'll be back on the temporary water supply now in the next year. Okay, so that was all I had. So under item 9, bylaws, there are no bylaws to present this evening. We will now move to item number 10, which is mayor and councilor statements and inquiries. We'll start with Councilor Jones.
I've had a number of people reach out to me in the last couple of weeks concerning a garage that has opened up on the corner of Lakeview and Pleasant Street. The questions that are being asked, number one, is it zone commercial, which is not. How can they operate and what are they going to do for convenience? Council, I ask that question.
The Southeast Regional Service Commission Plan 360 are aware and we're looking into it. All right. Thank you. Okay, Councilor Ward Russell.
So I have sent updated suggestions to our treasurer with regards to community building funds, so I would encourage a further conversation on that at some point. Some of those suggestions includes money for phase 2 of the White Birch Playground and some money towards Royal Harvard Baptist Church as they're investing in the Warren Center. On that topic, there needs to be primary conversation with EMO to move this dialogue forward, and I understand that Councilor Coates is looking after that in the near future. So thank you. Participated in the workplace assessment this past week, so look forward to hearing the results of that, as well as there should be a note sent to DTI with regards to the current pothole on Dorian Crest that needs repair. As quick as we can get them done this year. And last on my list is I do plan on attending the UNM meetings coming up late October in India. So.
Good. Thank you very much, Councilor. Councilor Land.
Like, we thank the arena help for the ice next week, the lines on, everything will finish. They're gonna hopefully be Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Just when the doors open. But I do want to send a thank you to Kevin, the guy that works with Black and Mac. He does a lot of the work in the arena. He's done a lot of aspects of one above and beyond.
Great, thank you very much. And the company that Councilor Land is referring to is Black and McDonald. They start at the plant. They do a lot of that work and get everything humming along as it should. So, Councilor Arrow.
Okay, I have a number of things. The first one, Bob, you were earlier last week, you had good news. You've forgotten about the good news story here, or you purpose?
Oh, I'm waiting.
Okay, so
But go ahead, please. It's good news. Go ahead. Oh, yeah, no, still like.
So there is a good news story, and thank you to Mayor Rochon and our previous CAO and our previous council who were involved in the early stages. And thank you most of all to the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, who really they come through for us. This is people like Lisa Parsons and Vincent Roussel and Raymond Brown and the minister and the MLA's office. But we have been authorized or granted monies to do $100,000 repair in front of the culvert in front of the fire station. They had previously announced $30,000, and we were struggling to find the remaining amount of money to do the job correctly. And we were advised last week that let's get it done. So this is, I believe, underway.
It's underway. Our engineering partners are currently making sure that it can get done because the monies are there until December 31st, and the approval for the additional money was based on the very good likelihood that the work could be done.
So we should start to see action here shortly. So this is good. The next item is you mentioned the budget, Bob, and the budget deliberations as we prepare for 2024. But so we're into the beginning of August. What is the plan for us for our budget deliberations between now and because of the budget needs to be submitted from council with an approval to Fredericton for their approval this year, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So the timelines are a little fuzzy right now, Councilor Arrow, simply because the province hasn't said it has to be in by a certain date. Our treasurers and the treasurers in other municipalities are still working with the provincial government in terms of how to go about putting all the budgets together. My preference is if we go back to some of the previous council meetings, I had mentioned that we need to get going with the budget, right? It's important to start those conversations early so that we are in place to have something done, say by September, October. We're now into October. It's not completed, but those conversations have started. So the idea is to talk with the department heads first, have a conversation there, look at any types of special requests or special initiatives that we have in the former municipalities and some of the unincorporated areas. Or the former LSD areas, and then bring everything to council for a conversation. I personally would like to see public consultation, so folks are aware what the budget looks like. That's been a past practice of mine, but to give you a firm date, don't have it.
Because I believe that we as a council have got some serious deliberations to do. And why I think this now, more so than I have, is that Councillor Eldick and myself, we did have a meeting with the treasurer. And I had previously submitted some questions that I had, just questions of fundamental fiscal management in the municipality. And it seems like the answers that the treasurer was receiving from province is that the aiming point is to try and have a more unified tax rate within the community. Right. And one of the first steps in doing that was to begin to almost view the expenditures as being, account for them as if they're being shared. But in by and large, and this is all fine and good, except for the fact that there is hugely different tax rates in this community. So it's a couple of just the facts are that, for instance, the tax rate in the lower Coverdale, well, the tax rate in Alma is 72% more than the tax rate in lower Coverdale. That includes the DTI, and that's for 2023. Yes. That's a huge difference, right? And there's reasons that it's like that. But if we're moving towards viewing our expenditures as by and large as one just big pool, that's great. I actually support that. But not when we have a difference in that tax rate with an LSD area like that. And for Riverside, Albert, it is 19.5% lower there than it is in Alma. So these are huge differences. So we're going to need to debate, I think, when we submit, how many of the items are we going to actually change from being local services to shared services? And the more we do, I mean, as I said, I'm actually for that, but not with keeping the tax rate. So we're gonna, some are not in our control because they're being dictated by the province, and other ones are in our control. So I think we're running out of time to do this properly, but it's never too late.
I tend to agree with you. I mean, I believe in the conversations that I've had around budgets is that the goal, the long-term goal, is to have two essential tax rates. One for formerly incorporated municipalities, because those you can probably get to a point over time where they can become one, and then one for the unincorporated areas until such time as the services that they benefit from are the same, and they may not ever be that. So, but eventually the local service districts or the former local service districts tax rates, those would in time become one. So they're two sub-unit budgets. Yeah. So I agree with you. Time is running short, but it's better to start now than not start.
It is. So it's never never too early. It's never too early to start. I think the sooner we do that, the better. So the next one is just a shout out to promotion. And Mr. Kelly there, let's promote some tourism here. We do have a big tourism event happening throughout Fundy Albert coming up, the Rising Tide, Trail and Tunes Festival. And here in Alma, we've got the Fleet Launch Festival, it's all connected together. So just, everyone should, get stoked up, that's coming up next weekend. The beginning. And I know that, not this coming weekend, next week. Thank you. And I know that they would be always looking for volunteers, and there's people in the community here who happen to accept any help, and I'm sure it is throughout. The next one is a little bit speaking to Jane's questioning about some of the budget line items. And I'm not going to get into it because I know the mayor is going to respond to you in more detail. But there is a budget line item that's a local expense for Alma, because some of them actually aren't that you raised, but you'll get your answer there, Jane. But there is one, that beautification was a line item that came forth into the budget. Yeah, it was $20,000 for them. And that it originates there because of the previous council wished that when they put in their budget wish list last year for this year, that there be monies there. To my knowledge, because I've not been able to see how much, if any of this has been spent, because we haven't broken down the expenses into subunits. But I believe that most of this money has not been spent. And I am wondering, we're running out of time, but we do know, I believe most of the people in Alma would agree that the village square, which has a gazebo that is pretty rotten and needs work, that this would be a useful destination, at least for some of this money. And in the absence of having any time to make a proposal for a tender, I thought of doing this in reverse. What about if we said something like, let's make a motion tonight that we allocate $5,000 notionally for an upgrade there. And the motion would be, we're prepared to spend $5,000 this year out of that budget for an upgrade there. Now we're going to go to the community, any service provider out there, request 4 proposals. Here's $5,000. Submit, what's the best thing you can do down there? It needs a new roof, it needs a whole new staircase, whatever you can do. Are you prepared to accept a motion for that?
I'm really, not that I'm not comfortable with your concept, Councilor. What I'm wondering is, without knowing what monies are there, I did ask our treasurer about the beautification budget, and I was told that part of that was used to pay for the benches that had been ordered last year. Because the money had to come from somewhere, or remember we had that conversation where some of that money would have to be paid back if we didn't use it. So that is where some of that money was, but where the actual budget sits, I don't know.
So maybe this would be a good thing if we have a special meeting coming up to do the one that you was.
Yeah, it's the provincial municipal highway.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Let's find that and see if we have $5,000 out of this.
We can certainly just send me an email.
I will do it tomorrow.
I'd be glad to follow up.
2 points.
Yeah, by the way, that line item for some is 2.6.2.4.0. Beautification and rehabilitation of lands, I've received some input from resident concerning Hilltop Lane. I know that is being worked. You may have got something as well today, Mayor, and the CAO and the Public Works is looking to into that issue. But then last one. There was earlier, we know that another municipality, and in fact it's Tantramar, had been campaigning and advocating for monies from the provincial government to help with rebranding market. And this was a good thing. And I believe they got a substantial amount. And I know we wrote a letter.
In June.
And did we ever hear on that?
We had not heard from them, so I approached the director who was responsible for that program. And my big question was, because in August, they came up with this new application process. So I reached out to the director personally, and I asked if we had to resubmit with the new application process, and the answer I got was no. Your request is on the books and it will be dealt with. My concern with all this is that A, we haven't heard back from them. And then B is with some discussion about the potential for an election coming up to throw everything into chaos.
Okay.
But I will follow up.
Well, actually, where I'm going is to even maybe sidestep that altogether, because I have this feeling that there was no obvious. So we do have monies within the budget. There are some monies, Jane mentioned 25,000 for recreation. I believe actually that was a shared amount. But we also know, because I sent some information to council, and we know that there's at least one other provider. These are interested businesses in our community who are prepared to try and help us rebrand and begin to market Fundy Element. And I was really reminded of how important and powerful this can be when I did see a very colored glossy brochure that had been put out by the municipality of Cantry. So the new municipality had this beautiful tourism brochure advertising their new entity. I'm wondering whether in much the same way that I'm proposing we do for an upgrade of the gazebo, I wonder whether we should try and identify some monies right now, I mean, within the next 2 weeks, approaching 10 grand or more, 10,000 or more, whatever we can find. And then we put that out as to the service providers. Here's how much money we have to help us with rebranding, so our trucks even have their logo, and our marketing. We have this much money to spend for this year at least. Any interested service providers, of which I know we have at least probably 2, there's probably many more, they can submit their proposal for what they could do for that money. So I would personally like to do that as a way to kickstart action forward with monies that we've got.
I would look at it a little differently. I wouldn't give a number at first. I would ask to see a proposal of what they could offer, and then we could go through that list. I don't want to be I want to.
The only
I think you're going to get a quote for the 10,000, right?
Well, that's my only worry about that approach, Heather, is that you can get probably anything from just a logo for $200 to 10 million bucks. But we've got a pretty, for this year at least, limited budget, but there's monies.
I'm not opposed to the concept of doing a logo and branding exercise ourselves with the hope of being able to get some of that provincial money to basically pay it off or to offset the expenditures. It's we would have to define the statement of work in terms of how we would expect that logo and branding exercise to happen.
Because do we have anybody who's qualified to make a statement of work on that?
I believe you mentioned Tantramar had put out a statement of work for theirs. We could.
Well, I don't know what they did,
but I quite certainly spent quite a considerable sum of money for their logo and branding exercise. That doesn't mean you can't do a branding exercise or a logo exercise, do them separately. It's just how much would that cost? And the difficulty is in creating a logo for our new municipality. We want to make sure that we consult with our constituents so that they see themselves in that logo.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. But we have people in the community that seem to be interested in contributing to try and help us get there. Of course, they don't want to do it for free, which is understandable.
That's right.
I'm just brainstorming on how do we start? Because right now we haven't started.
That's right. And we should have.
We should have.
We should have quite some time.
So I'm proposing a way, which is to identify some money and put it out there and say, here's the money. Provide us, what can you give us, knowing that this is what we're trying to do, we're trying to brand our entity and promote it.
Well, let's have a conversation with our treasurer first and treasurer and the interim CA to find out what kind of money we have there. And then bring it back to council. It is gonna get late, but better start now. And even if we spread it over 2 fiscal years. Or two calendar years, which are fiscal years for us, we could get something started.
Would it be possible for you to follow up with Tantamar to see exactly what they did or what they had in their package?
Well, I could, and I would even say we've got staff now, we have our
Director of
community services, they can do it.
Just make the request of our director of community services, Councilor.
I'll make the request to the CAO to short them on. And
All right,
okay, I'll do that.
all right,
That's it.
good. Thank you very much, Councilor Overton.
Just a couple of things for me tonight, Riverside Albert Water Project, as of this morning. The work is nearing completion, preparation for paving is underway. If the weather cooperates, the contractor anticipates having the roadway paved by the end of the week. As Mayor Rochon had indicated, it's been a long project that was supposed to be done in July, and they're still there. So thank you to the residents of Forestville Road, because they've been very patient as they fill in the road. Then the next week they dig it up, then they fill it in, the next day they dig it up. So appreciate your patience and keeping in touch with me throughout the process. I did as well participate in the workplace assessment for Fundy Albert. Remembrance Day, I wanted to say thank you to Peter Judd for working with Councillor Arrow, myself, and the admin of Fundy Albert to ensure that there's going to be a Remembrance Day service in both Riverside Albert and Alma this year. Service in Riverside Albert will be on November 10th and in Alma on November 11th. With the understanding that there is also a Remembrance Day service, I believe, in Hillsborough on November 11th as well, with refreshments to follow. Details and the invitations will be forthcoming. There's a corner lot on Union Street and Route 114 that has a tree that was to be removed by the village, including the former village. There was a attempt made in the fall and again this spring to contact the arborist with no success. So proper follow-up, I think, is still going to need to be required there. Water Street pothole repairs, I believe you're going to discuss that a little bit further later. The third lot. Finance, a short meeting was held with Councilor Arrow, the treasurer, to discuss some specific questions with regards to sub-unit budgeting. Budget work for the next fiscal year is underway with the treasurer and the acting CAO. Just in the process of confirming a scheduling meeting date with the 3 fire chiefs and the council of representatives to discuss the current budget and what their expectation or needs are for the next fiscal year. Ward 2 happenings, attended a fundraiser event for the Albert County Museum. Thank you to the board of directors for a fantastic evening of food, laughter, and entertainment. The Lower Cape Community Hall had another very successful turkey dinner fundraiser again this year. Long lineups and filled bellies at the end. And I just wanted to say that there are some pretty amazing things happening within Fundy Albert by a lot of dedicated volunteers. And I don't think our volunteers in Fundy Albert or in other places get enough praise, because they do a lot for our communities and some very often go unthanked. So that was it for me for tonight.
Great, thank you, Councilor Overton, Councilor Coates.
Pretty short, there's a new gravel pit opened up in Caledonia Mountain. I'd like to know if there was a permit for it, how would I find out, and when the permit was.
I don't know, but let's look into that and I'll see if we can find an answer. I don't know if we can part of the environment.
Under that plan they had, gravel pits would be part of the regional plan.
Mhm.
So, and quite a bit of traffic on 9, 10 and our new paved roads won't last very long. And the next thing, I have a meeting tomorrow afternoon to look into setting up a warming center in Lower Cover Baptist Church, you told me preliminary. Do a report. And that's it.
Great, thank you very much. So I do have a couple things. One is there was to be some comments about resources, and there were some questions about use of resources in the municipality. So at the committee of the whole meeting on September 19th, I referred my involvement in relation to the move of the Literacy Express program to council to determine if my actions warranted sanctions against me. In my absence, during the discussions by members of council who were present, it was determined that there would not be any personal sanctions against me, but that all of council should reread the code of ethics for elected officials. In addition, I believe council agreed to undertake a review of our purchasing practices to strengthen them. Otherwise, I had received a correspondence from a resident over concern about Ms. Hannah Downey's resignation, and I indicated to the resident that I would provide a response. The resident was requesting detailed information be provided in relation to costs, the circumstances surrounding the resignation, and what training and management tools are under consideration by council. What I will say is the council received Ms. Downey's resignation from her position as senior clerk for the Village of Fundy Albert Council, and council accepted it through a resolution of council. Any information relating to the resignation is strictly confidential. I will reiterate what I said on September 20th, which is that we thank Ms. Downey for her service to the community, and we wish her well in all her future endeavors. Our focus right now is in the process to find a new chief administrative officer for Fundy. The contract has been awarded, as was discussed last week, to Smart Human Resources Solution Inc. to accomplish that. We look forward to beginning that process. In addition, council had previously directed that a workplace assessment be conducted, which, as you've heard this evening, involved all of the employees of the village and members of council. That's underway right now, and we expect that a report will be provided to council with recommendations. Council will obviously give very serious consideration to those recommendations, and I will not be commenting further on this issue. In terms of collaborative services, the Southeast Regional Service Commission has asked member communities whether there is any interest around them providing assistance in other areas of administration, financial management, legal, water and wastewater systems, and collaborative procurement. No commitments have been made by any member communities. A meeting will take place to discuss the possibilities further. When that is, I don't know. On the question of veterans banners, we have been able to determine that veteran banners can still be purchased. They're $138 plus HST for the banners and $118 plus HST for hardware. There have been different approaches in different municipalities in the past. For example, in the former municipality of Hillsborough, the families purchased the banners themselves at their own cost. The municipality purchased the hardware and then maintained the responsibility to put them up and take them down every year. The idea being is that November is Veterans Month or Remembrance Day month, and they would remain up for the month of November. Then they would come down and the Christmas lights would go up at the end of November into December. So does council, because right now we're at a crunch. So does council want to place a limit on the new number of banners that we wish to allow to be purchased and installed? There are a number of people who are looking to have that done. Right now, I believe Riverside Albert has 16 or so.
Oh, I only know.
I believe Riverside Albert had 16 or so in the former village of Hillsborough. There were, I believe, no, just old ones.
Right.
I think there were 16 in Riverside Albert. I think there were 22 or 24 in Hillsborough. It costs money to put them up and take them down every year. As an example, we received a quote from Lumar Electric, who has done the work in Hillsborough in the past. I don't know if they were the ones that did the work for Riverside Albert in the past, but to put up 20 banners and take them down and put the Christmas lights back up is around $3,000 for 20. So we need a decision. We need a decision like tonight.
So what is the cost again of the banners and
The banners are $138 plus HST for the banners. And $118 plus HST for the hardware. I believe in Riverside, Albert, the families purchased both the banners and the hardware. And then the community paid to have the banners put up. In Hillsborough, the families paid for the banners, the community paid for the hardware, and then the community paid to have the banners taken up and taken down. I do know that there's probably some interest in the community of Allen as well. And I do know that there are other families that are looking to get some banners put up. So do we put a limit on the number of new banners that we wish to have installed? Our Director of Community Services has submitted a request from Fundy Powell, which is a requirement to get their permission to put the banners up on utility poles.
I would say yes, that would move ahead. I don't know what you're exactly looking for to put a limit on them when I don't know to put a limit on 10 in Hillsborough, 10 in Alma, and 10 in Riverside, Albert, when Hillsborough may only have one and maybe Alma could get more. I don't know what.
It's still better than not having a limit because we could get 30 in Hillsborough. So if we say 5 more in each municipality, for a total of 15, then at least we know that it's a maximum of 5 and it's based on a first come, first served basis. That's how that was done, at least in the former village of Hillsborough, it was done on a first come, first served basis.
So can we say 5 in Hillsborough, 5 in Alma, or sorry, 5 in Hillsborough, 5 in Riverside, Albert, because we have them already in Alma, if they can, if there's 10 people that want to participate.
Sure.
And that they have to pay the full
and-
cost.
Do we pay the full cost? Do we pay the partial cost? Or do we pay, are the families responsible for the purchase of banners? We're responsible for the purchase of the hardware and the installation of the banners.
I think as council, we should provide the brackets and then installation. And what we can use them all year round.
Right now they are used for the Rising Tides
Yeah.
Festival banners. They're the same.
So,
Yeah.
and the families, if they want a banner, they should pay with their.
The reason why the timing is getting short is because the families that want to get the banners, they have to provide photos and they have to deal with. And it's our Director of Community Services that's going to accept the information and then put that through the company that's manufacturing the banners. And they do need some lead time.
So can we, I'm just trying to, because I know, you know, Riverside was used to paying the banner and the hardware. Can we compromise here a little bit and just come up with a rough number that we're cost sharing the hardware?
It's whatever you would like to introduce as a motion.
I'm looking at this as opposed to this.
Well, I actually agree with Jim there, that if you're gonna go this way, the hardware and the install is paid for by the municipality. The families pay the banners. I know, Councillor Ward Russell had previously mentioned, you know, there's veterans all the way through from the Albert, and that's a valid thing. Maybe for this year, we start slow in the communities that are used to it, and next year we need to, like, we've not had, to my knowledge, veteran banners here, not for a while. So we could
And
start.
that would have to be built into the budget.
Yeah.
So it's right down the hall and
But with the community paying the bracket and the install.
Okay, I'll let you move that motion, because I wouldn't have done that. So we'll go ahead.
No, you want that.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. Let's get it going.
make a decision.
We're making a decision.
Okay.
So
I'm not sure what we're gonna, the numbers.
I would like to put a motion on the floor that we allow 5 additional Remembrance Day banners within the former village of Hillsborough district. 5 additional banners in the former district of Riverside, Albert, and 10 to begin with in the former village of Alma at the cost to the resident of 138 plus applicable taxes.
That's
That's my
That's
motion.
clear.
Yes.
So moved by Councillor Overton. Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Jones. Any discussion on the motion?
I just want clarification. Sorry. I'm not getting
The 10, the
Yes.
10.
It's for the former village of Elm.
Only,
Yeah.
only for the former village of Allen.
Okay,
5 in the other.
right.
Is there additional?
So nothing in what we're
There's-
covering. right now.
No.
Correct. Or I tell it. Okay.
Any other questions on the motion? Not all in favor, signify by stating aye. Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. So I will inform our Director of Community Services tomorrow that. 5, 5, and 10. Another point was, the Public Works employees clearing of garbage cans for the Rising Tide Festival weekend. The Public Works is able to do that, but there will be overtime incurred for that weekend. I understand the contractor will still be here to clean out the washrooms during the entire weekend. The person who we had. So is council agreeable for that to happen? No objections? Then that will provide that direction to the Director of Operations. Item number 11, notices of motions and resolutions. So there was a motion, and you have the motions, the draft motions in front of you. At our committee of the whole, at the September 19th committee of the whole, council agreed to the use of the Multicultural Center for a weekly community activity. A motion of council is offered and requested. So
There's no such place. This is the cultural center.
cultural center?
Yeah,
It's,
I know it was gonna be my thought after, but it's misnamed everywhere.
we'll make a correction later on, but I will still refer to it in my notes. The Alma Multicultural Center, so it would require a motion to basically to cement the fact that they're gonna get the use of the space for free.
Do we know the community group that's using it to put the name in there?
I know Mrs. Christostome is the person who had asked. I don't know if there's a community group name resulting from that, or is it just Alma Village Friends, or
Ship with them.
the people of Alma?
Was
Alma Collective?
I can't think on my toes quickly enough to come up with something. People about, well, it's not just for Alan, it could be for anybody.
Okay,
Any-
So we'll say the people of Alma. Okay. So would somebody be willing to read that motion, please? With the people of Alma inserted.
I go back to the community group. I just thought there was a specific name, that's why I asked.
I
That's-
didn't know what
I thought
the
there was a-
community group
Right,
was.
you know, like. Different groups, that's why I asked the question. It's okay.
So will
I
someone
have
read
a
the motion?
motion, maybe, for the cultural center.
Call it the cultural center.
Be it resolved that the Village of Fundy Council authorize the use of the cultural center located at 13 School Street in Alma by community groups to hold weekly community gatherings and activities during the fall and winter months at no cost to the organizers and users, provided they maintain the building. They clean it up when they're finished.
So moved by Councillor Eric. Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Jonah. Any discussion on the motion? Not, all in favor, signify by stating aye.
Thank you.
Opposed, if any? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. There is an amendment to the paving and patching resolution at the September 27th, a motion was adopted to proceed with the asphalt patching and paving in the communities of Alma and Hillsborough. A single motion was adopted in error as it exceeds the 100,000 limit required to go to the New Brunswick Opportunities Network. So it will require two separate motions as they're more appropriate, and there are two distinct contracts. for two separate communities to be paid by the taxpayers in those communities. So it requires the rescinding of the previous motion and the adoption of two separate motions. So can I have someone read the rescinding of the motion? Yes,
Be it
ma'am.
resolved,
Go ahead.
be it resolved that the village of Fundy Elder Council rescind the motion adopted on September 27, 2023. Related to the requirements of a contract with asphalt patching and padding in the community of Alpha and Hillsborough to Browns paving at a cost of $105,948 plus HST.
So moved by Councillor Coates. Is there a second on that motion? Councillor Land, any discussion on the motion? To rescind, all in favor, signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any, motion's carried unanimously. So I'll accept a motion now for the two separate motions for asphalt patching and then the other one for asphalt padding.
Be it resolved that the Village of Fundy, Alberta Council award a contract for asphalt patching in the community of Alma to Brown's Paving at a cost of $29,544 plus HST of $4,431.60 for a total cost of $33,975.60. So moved.
So moved by Councillor Elderkin. Is there a second on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Lang. Any questions on the motion? Not, all in favor, signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any, motion's carried unanimously. The second one would be for the padding on the, yes, Councillor Lang?
Be resolved that the Village of Fundy Elder Council award a contract for asphalt paving in the community of Hillsborough to Brown's paving at a cost of $76,384 plus HST of $11,457.60 for a total cost of $87,841.60.
So moved by Councillor Land. Is there a second on that motion? Councillor Jonah, any questions on the motion?
There is money, right? I know.
Yes.
There was money. There's money.
There's none. Any other questions? All in favor, signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any, motion's carried unanimously. Item number C, which is the Water Street Road Maintenance. So repairs to the Water Street in Riverside, Alberta are necessary as there are many deep potholes. Pricing from Brown's Paving and MacArthur's were obtained. Brown's paving rate for patching is less by $1 per ton. It's not very much. Brown's submitted one quote to repair only large potholes amounting to $9,480 plus HST. Their quote also included a second option, which, when added to the patching, included a full asphalt base of 1/2 inch of asphalt for a total cost of $68,577.50 plus HST of $10,286.63 for a total cost of $78,864.13. Our interim administrator, because there is not sufficient funds for that, recommends that Brown's Paving be authorized to repair Water Street through a combination of patching and other means to a maximum cost of $40,000 plus HST. There is sufficient funding in the Riverside Alberta road maintenance budget to accomplish that. So in other words, we don't have the $78,000, but try to do your best with $40,000. So that would require a motion. Someone prepared to read that?
I was just gonna ask, did someone go to Brown's Paving and say, is this wasting our money doing it in this manner?
No.
That might be a good idea, but.
Well, the problems have to be fixed, because I'm not a DTI plowed the way it is.
Yeah.
And when you put a 1/2 inch of asphalt on top of a road that's questionable, you're not gonna have much. So I mean, it would be best to patch it so that people can at least. So, but patching just the large holes will create a situation where in the spring, frost heaving, warm weather, it's gonna be a mess again. So it's best to try to patch as much of it as you possibly.
That's what, so we are just looking at the patch.
Yes.
Be it resolved that the village of Fundy Elder Council will contract with asphalt patching of Water Street in the community of Riverside, Albert, and Brown's paving at a cost not to exceed 40,000 plus HSD.
So moved by Councillor Coates. Is there a second on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Alderman. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor, signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Motion's carried.
You know, to me, this is a good example of how it's very difficult to make sense of the budget, because the Alma amount is clearly identified, 33,000 bucks, there it is under Alma. The other,
It's under road maintenance DTI, which they don't do, and it's also under culverts and ditches.
okay,
So it's a combination of those funds. I specifically called the treasurer today and made sure that there is funding available. And she was 100% comfortable. Okay, all right. Hillsborough winter maintenance. The winter maintenance contract for the community of Hillsborough was posted on the New Brunswick Auction Network website. The tender closed on September 26, 2023 at 2 p.m. There were 2 bids received. I was there for the opening of the bids. Jasco Construction's bid for 3 years was $852,150, including HSD. Brunswick Limestone's bid was $626,747.70, including HSD. I do require a motion to award that contract. And as a note, that's about double what the community of Hillsborough paid last year. Go ahead, Councillor Land.
Be resolved that the winter maintenance 3-year contract of community of Hillsborough will be awarded to the lowest bidder who met all the criteria of Brunswick Limestone at a cost of $626,747.70.
That including HSD.
Including HSD. Is there a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Jones. Any questions on the motion? So that would be built into combination of the snow removal contract starts, I believe, in November, December. So part of that would be paid for out of this year's budget. Next year's budget would be for the rain.
yeah, that total cost is the 3 years.
3 years, so right. So annually, it's a little over 200,000, including HSD. I believe it's 208,000. All in favor, signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any. Motion's carried unanimously. Lastly, there is a Hillsborough solid waste collection. So the existing contract for solid waste collection in the community of Hillsborough expires on December 31st, 2023. An extension is being sought to the current agreement, and this was discussed prior in the previous council meeting, to allow a review of the various collection processes in the southeast region. The draft resolution to extend the current agreement until the end of January 2025. So for 13 months is in order. So if I could have someone read that, please.
Be it resolved that the Village of Fundy, Albert Council enters into an extension of the existing solid waste collection agreement with Bureau of Waste and Recycling for the community of Hillsborough until January 31st, 2025 at a cost of $91,153 plus HST of $13,672.95 for a total cost of $104,825.95.
So moved by Councillor Elderman, seconded by Councillor Lanning. Any questions on the motion? All this, the idea is for all the solid waste collection contracts to expire at about the same time, so that they can all be managed together, including the former LSDs, including all former municipalities, and then even looking at the communities of Alma and the communities of Riverside, Albert, to determine how best to provide solid waste collection. All in favor, signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any. Motion's carried. Thank you. So we will now move to item number 12, which is comments and statements from the public. We'll now offer the public an opportunity to make comments and statements. If required, we'll set a time limit of 15 minutes on that. So by all means, anyone wish to speak?
I have a question. I've been talking
Carol?
here. Yeah. I would like I have a letter
or you can just leave it with us if you'd like.
Yeah, it's, for a hidden driveway sign above my property. They took my mailbox out because of that. So I would like a sign posted at the top of the hill, because people coming down over that's not used to that road are right on it before they realize there's a driveway there. And not last year, but the year that we got the big storm, there was a 9-foot drift across my driveway, across the road. They came down and they found a hole through. Well, I had to drive almost out in the middle of the road. And if cars are coming down the hill, they're not gonna see me. So I would like a sign posted to show that there is a hidden driveway.
And it's, all the details are included in your letter now?
I think we need anything else, when my phone number is in there. And another thing I had.
Sure.
What I mentioned to, Mr. Arrow is, I've been taken out of the Hebron waste pickup, and I'm in Hebron. And they've got the sign in the wrong place on this end. So they've taken me out, so I don't have to pick up for the seasonal pickup garbage, like I always got before, and so I wondered what they can do about that.
So do I understand you to say that you are not within the municipal boundary of
I am.
the former Alma?
I live in Elm. I live in, this is
Oh.
always in the Alma,
Right.
parish of Alma and the village of Alma, and I've always lived in it. Except in, I forget, it was 79 or whatever, they changed it to R1 Elmer. And then before that it was Alma. But on my tax bill, the first tax bill that I got, and my deed also states it. Location of property, it's got Hebron, and I have it on the phone, I can show you.
Okay.
And what I don't understand is when they come down to do the sides of the roads and all of that stuff, they stop at the Alma side at the other end. So they've taken one Hebron sign, taken it past the Alma sign, and put it way over on the other end. And they brought it down this far, and it's cut Sid Sinclair, George Sinclair, me, Daniel Sinclair, and all the properties in between Daniel's and that. And the other Hebron sign, I know for a fact, was across from where Daniel lives. So it's down in the woods somewhere, when the crossway was washed out, and we got the big storm that time. I think the sign was destroyed.
Okay.
And so I think that's why they couldn't find it, but that's where the Hebron sign
Are
goes.
those details in that letter, ma'am?
No,
Probably not.
I didn't, but I can.
I'll follow up with council.
Also,
Yep.
across from my house is a tower. That's right there, 3730 State Drive, and there's a tower across from my house. And it's called the Hebron Tower. So I'm in Hebron.
Okay.
So there's no way they can cut me out, but they already have, but
All that.
you know, that ticks me off. And it's like, I was told great point blank, well, you know, you have to, if they do that, you have to pay higher, you'll have to pay higher taxes. I said, I'm glad you pay higher taxes. Because I will not lug my garbage from my driveway down here to an end. I will not. Because I don't, and I'm not gonna hire somebody to do it. When it comes to just 3 or 4 houses from me, it picks up the garbage. It's not sensible. Not sensible to me.
I'll get the details from council.
But, and you have most, if you need anything else to know, if you need anything to prove it, I have it on the phone, I can send it to you. So,
Carol has been faced with the challenge that we have in Fundy, Alberta, that the delineation between LSD areas and former municipalities is a hard line in the taxation law and certain things, but in reality, on the street, there's not much of a difference between the
No.
person in one, the LSD and their neighbor who's in the.
yeah.
So.
And see, another thing I have a lot of problems with is that tower across from my house, they sprayed. And I've had one racket with them, people from spraying glyphosate. And so I get into when I get upset, they're gonna know I'm upset. So I had the guy from Dan, from NB Power,
Mhm.
and I said, I want you to measure it from my well, it's inside of my house, right here by my door, on my doorstep, across. And see how far it is across to the other side of the tower, and see if it's over the limit. There's only a road between us and the tower.
Mhm.
And my well is, he said, well, there's 80 feet, and there's 80 steps. I said, that don't need to crack, that don't need to crack to me. I said, do you know what they sprayed the first year that they sprayed across my house? No, I said, arsenic. And I said, when I asked them for the MSDS sheets, one guy turned around to me and he said, how do you know about them? I said, I know about them and I want them.
Mhm.
And he said, well, and then I found out. They never posted it that they were going to spray, which is an automatic $10,000 or $20,000 fine. And when I called them about this, they said, we don't do it, we hire people to do it. I said, well, you should have your people told that if they're going to spray it, how do you know? Because they're not going to spray it. So I asked the guy, I said, why are they spraying? I said, all there is, I said, the first year they sprayed over there wasn't an ant, there wasn't a bird, there wasn't nothing on that side of the road. They killed everything. Matter of fact, they almost ruined my flowers and stuff in front
Mhm.
because they spray and then, oh, well, just spray here. Well, don't put that like. And I get a little ticked off.
I can see that.
Yes. And I don't mind telling you what I feel like, and it's just the idea that. Like, sure, maybe I might want to have a whole bunch of stuff to put out. But it's the idea that they cut me right out, but they said, no, you're not in that, and then they stopped at the Elms Farm. So I thought it was in the Elm Village.
Okay.
So where,
So it's our public works that are not picking up the garbage or?
No, or
no,
or it's care, it's what it is, this is the difference between
yeah,
the former municipalities, I believe, at least Ottawa for sure. At least even for 2023, we do not have what Carol is calling the seasonal pickup. Instead, we have the Eco 360 mobile depot comes. But the LSD areas have the seasonal pickup because they're being currently administered under a different program, right? And this is what,
Yeah.
what Carol is falling into, is between the cracks there, but technically she is within the village.
and
of
I cracked there to fill up.
Okay, yeah.
You and I can chat.
Yeah, do we have it, because it reminded me when Carol mentioned glyphosate, do we have an update from, did we do the testing?
Yeah, the testing's been done, to my knowledge, I haven't seen the results and I haven't been told that the results are in.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still waiting.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, I don't know how long it takes, but something to follow.
Thank you,
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Anyone else? Comments, statements? Well, if not, we do have a number of closed session items. So I will accept the motion to move into closed session.
Time to go.
Councilor Elderkin, seconded by Councilor Lang. All in favor, signify by stating aye. Opposed, if any? Great, thank you very much, folks, for coming this evening, and there will be some follow-up letters.